I see one question, Kavehi, so I will take your question and then I'm gonna open it up to some people here in the room. So please go ahead, Kavehi.
Aloha mai kako. I am inquiring to find out if you guys are going to have a legit committee member attendance for your next meeting, which will be in Ka'u. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that scheduled for the 19th?
That is scheduled for the 19th. Yes, it is. And we have confirmed quorum as we had tonight. So we had last minute cancellations. So we do apologize for that on behalf of the planning staff. But we do, as far as we know, we do have quorum, have confirmed quorum for Thursday night in Ka'u.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay. Angie, do you want to go now or do you want me to keep talking, or does anyone want to speak first or have a question?
Question.
Okay.
People online.
Thank you for
Aloha, I'm Lamaku Mikahala Roy. My question is, ladies and gentlemen, after every meeting in the districts, what happens to the questions that come in from the public? What happens to those that you collect up in every district?
Thank you so much for that. So we are collecting questions and we are gathering and updating a frequently asked questions document that we will continue to add to. Also, all of the comments that we receive will be publicly available. So if you present us with, we can transcribe comments that we hear at a meeting, but if you also provide written comments or testimony of any kind, sorry, I'm looking at the audience, I should be looking at everyone. But those will all be made available on our website. They're starting to really come in. And so we're gathering them and we'll start posting them online. And then we also, all of the comments that are received during this part of the process will be packaged and presented along with the plan to the Planning Commission. And that package will then go with the Planning Commission's recommendations to the County Council. Do you want me to have something else to add, Natasha?
Just for clarification, so when we say that we're packaging the comments, all the comments will be available to Planning Commission, as this is the final draft of the director, and will help inform the Planning Commission on whether they will forward the draft onto council. If that makes sense. A little bit more as to why it's not being incorporated into this draft. This is the final draft. Comments taken now will be packaged and inform the next part of the process.
So it's not going to be part of this draft.
So the question is that the comments are not going to be part of this draft, and that is correct. As we've said before in the earlier slide, we have gone through at least several drafts with many comments. This is the final draft coming from the planning department and is the director's recommended draft to being put forward. So at this point, any comments is more like testimony. And then also will be given consideration when at commission.
Thank you for that question. Okay, all right. I have a John Barlow, I believe, if I'm saying that. Yes. Do you mind coming and taking the mic? Mariam, can you pass this along to Uncle?
Yeah.
Sorry, hi. Yeah, aloha, my name is John Barlow with Par Alternative LLC. I hope I don't put a out, but in going over the draft that would the planning as I've been going to a number of these, I still see some mistakes, of course. And of course, some of the stuff I mentioned before never got in. One question first, off the bat, is the fact that there should be distinguishment between what you refer to as energy versus fuel. We don't really have, we have all the energy in the world right here. We have all the ocean, wind, waves, and everything else. And everybody who considers the mistake of our dependence on energy that's imported, we don't import energy. That's the fuel. And I think you should look up in the context of your draft, your final draft, that you should straighten that out. And then I was looking at the fact that the cost, they mentioned in this about the planning for the homes, cost 40% electricity less than the national average. Okay, yes, it's 40% less, and we pay the highest at 42, and they say that the US averages 12 cents. Well, if you keep on going through that particular part, which is energy and electricity, they talk about how if you have 40% less electricity than the rest of the nation, yet the state uses, and it says in there, 12 times more energy than the rest of the nation, then something's wrong with the math. And if you want to get more fuel efficient or energy efficient, we already have than the nation. How much more energy efficient can you get before we're near zero? And another thing with regards to renewable energy, the draft or the graph I gave to you there, you could see that on there notes every island, how much renewable energy it has per island and its demand. At the very end, it shows that the total demand of the, says 12 trillion, 12 K gigawatt. I think it should be just 12 gigawatts. But the idea is that the amount of demand that the entire state has is 30% less than what our renewable energy can supply. It's just a tech that we don't supply. And then, of course, Halco and Pico, them guys have the kibosh on it or monopoly on it. Sorry. And oh yeah, we talk about economic resilience with the fact of tourism as the main driver. The thing is, we went through COVID. It's a year and a half of planes not flying and just no people, nothing to sell. So I think you should look at the other benefits of being out here and our culture as a conservation or agricultural based economy, get back to what it was prior to when everything was dependent on tourism. I should know, I was a tour director back in the 70s. And a couple more things, hopefully. The history of mass transit. I mentioned this before. We have a history of using rail here on the islands. How come that isn't part of your system? Because it's already in the maps. It's already assigned or has some places where the rail should go in. And not the real expensive stuff like in Honolulu with the heart. The ribbon, what I mentioned here, it's a ribbon track system, is a very inexpensive, very more aesthetic type of rail system that you can just have like a monorail or hanging smaller cars and lighter cars to move through the long distances, and then just have your hubs in the cities where you have your bus and or cabs and or bikes or whatever. And then hopefully the last few things here, diversified economy. That is one thing we should look into as far as our capabilities as anything that we plant grows. Why can't we go more into our agriculture? Why don't we reactivate the fish ponds and go back to what they had when they had 1 million people of Kanakamo'ole here and feeding everybody? And a thing to get into for the future is this plant-based meat. We can grow all that stuff and make this as an export item from here. They'll grow like nuts. And then I I just wanted to say one thing that I found out I didn't know about is did you know that you can get the seed, the stone, the seed from the avocado and make that into biodegradable plastic? They actually make that in Mexico, I think. And that's something, we have all these avocados, why don't we do something? Why don't we make a whole bunch of avocado products like guacamole, avocado oil, avocado chips, avocado mask, I don't know. But then last thing is the circular economy, which is one of the future benefits that we need to do because it focuses on recycling. You know, they're recycling everything now, including electronics and clothes and stuff like that. Part of the circular economy to make money last longer or make things last longer. My emphasis in my company is to develop a green engine for maritime applications, and particularly reason why, besides the fishing, is to be able to go out into the North Pacific garbage patch, capture all the plastics and debris there and turn it into value-added product and then ship it out of here. Make money off of the trash there before it's too late. As Ellen MacArthur Foundation has reported, that if we don't clean up the plastic before too long, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. That's all I know. But that's it. I didn't take up too much of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Were there other questions? Uncle Charlie?
Yeah. It's Citizen Charlie now.
You're still uncle.
Yeah. In preparation for the next meeting, because I'm gonna assume that we're gonna have one, as soon as we can schedule it. I would like to ask that maybe we focus, in the general plan on some of the issues that are really, pertinent to Kona specifically. And from what I am, the circles that I travel in, I think the traffic issues are one of them, the infrastructure. It's gonna be, affordable housing, reducing the number of vacation rentals that are impacting us. We all know about the disparity between income and cost of living. I don't know that that's something the county can do. But, and to Chuck's point, maybe we can try and highlight where the language was changed from the old to the new, and that may be too much of an ask, but I think if we can at least focus in on some of the topics that I feel West Hawaii's gonna feel more interested in, notwithstanding what was just presented here, so thanks.
So Uncle, was that a question or is that
That's a request.
a request? That we address some of that tonight,
No, the next time we,
get together.
yeah, next time we
Prepare for
convene, yeah, and
Okay.
prepare if you can. please.
Okay. All right, very good. Yes, I can either repeat your question or you can come talk into the mic. What would you prefer? You can either talk into the mic or I can repeat your question. What would you prefer? Okay.
So after Mr. Barlow was done, it got me thinking, so I wanted to know, does the general plan have a goal of reaching, you throw out all these terms, sustainability, resiliency, all that stuff. Does it have a goal to reach where we will be sustainable and we will not be 95% dependent on outside sources for our food?
Okay, so
Do you have that in the general plan?
So the question is, does the general plan cover, if the general plan addresses in goals or otherwise, the need for the county and our residents to be a lot more sustainable? You said 95,
95%.
where when we can exist here without importing everything that we use.
Costco.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It does to some extent. It does not reach all aspects of it because there are much bigger things at play in that conversation as well. But the point is, how can we as residents of our island, depend less on some of those things, and how can we produce more circular economy, like Uncle said, is exactly what it does speak to, of how can we create more local economies to provide what we need as residents, which would then have an effect of being less dependent on outside products.
It needs, I guess.
Yes, yes. Food sustainability is a good one. We have very little food stores on our island. If we had a really massive, you know, shutdown of some kind, it would be devastating because we don't have enough unless you grow your own food, like some people in the room. We don't have enough to sustain everyone here. Do you want to add?
Yeah, so in our section is that, in agriculture or in the economy, we have, as an opportunity in thriving and diversified regenerative economy is, diversifying the sector that addresses food security. So I think that's what you're talking toward, food security. So when we have regenerative agriculture and a regenerative economy, we're hoping that the policies that we have under those two sections will get us there. But as for a solid number, like it was said, we don't have a solid goal number. We do have other, maybe performance measures in our implementation section. So that's something we can look through a little bit, and I'm sorry, that's not the part that I wrote transportation, but we do have policies that speak toward that food security piece that you're talking about.
No, and I do, you did the transportation and I listened to you twice. And
You have a question?
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, you talked about, you know, how you want to transition and, you know, probably I will never be there. It's so far in the future, but you talked about transitioning to people doing more walking and riding bike or what, you know, catching the bus and all of that. You know, I gotta laugh at that. I mean, it's almost like a joke because you live here in Kona and you see all these luxury vehicles. Every other car that passes me is a BMW or a Mercedes, you know, all over the place. How are you gonna stop people like that from, you know, transitioning to something else? Right now, I saw the ugliest car ever in Kona.
The Cybertruck?
Two of them, one black, one silver, one, you know, obstructing our view. I mean, it's ugly.
So the question, to summarize your question is how feasible is it, do we think that we would get everyone to get out of their cars to be able to walk, bike, or take mass transit? So my answer to that is, again, that's another place where we don't necessarily have a specific goal. So it's not gonna be 100%. But there's a notion that if even 3% of us get out of our car, it'll have at least a 30% effect on traffic. So that it makes everybody's life better. So the goal isn't to get 100% off of vehicle. What we're really trying to do is give people who don't have options to get those luxury vehicles, to be in a Tesla, to be in a Rivian, right? That they have more choices than having to buy a car. Because even buying the cheapest car, even buying your jalopy, can be a lot more burdensome financially on you than if you had a bike, or if you were able to walk and live in a community that you could walk within a 1 mile radius and be able to go get food, or be able to go to either your job or classes. Now, that's not to say all of your trips are gonna be within a 1 mile radius, but so transportation has to work really closely together with land use on that. So it's really trying to give people options to make changes. It's kind of like health, right? Like, I got diabetes. I'm not gonna just go and eat a salad every day. That's really not sustainable for myself. But it's always, the doctor tells you make these little changes. So it's the same thing as the system on the whole for transportation, is if we make these little changes, the system as it operates as a whole will change, hopefully for the better. So it's not about getting everybody out of their cars. It's giving everybody an option to make that a more attainable thing for them to be able to do, to give you that choice. Does that make? We can talk some more after.
Day, you know, but, I mean, I know where you're going, it's just that it's kind of laughable when you watch more people moving here to Hawaii that live that traffic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what they expect when they move to Hawaii,
Mhm.
is I'm still gonna drive my Mercedes all over, I don't care, you know? I don't care about anybody else, you know, I'm paying my taxes and all that. So, you know, when you lay this down, they're not gonna follow it, forget it. They're paying the taxes, they know they can pay their, they can afford their gas, you know, their electric cars and everything. You know?
And they will pay for the road too and all of that taxes. So, and then we're gonna enjoy our mass transit and my bike path.
The transportation section.
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit more about, all right,
Just real quick, I was reading through it, and you said, I think if I remember correctly, you wanted a 54%
Yep.
increase in ridership
Yep.
of a bus.
Yep.
Have you been that thing?
yes, we did.
Even as cheap as it is, still you're not gonna get people to ride on that. And I don't see how you can project trying to get 50% more when what people can afford to do it now, and it costs you instead of like it's $2 for this one, still, right?
Right, currently it's free. So the question you have is, so the question, I'm repeating your question, is a 50% increase in ridership on mass transit feasible? And I will say yes. And here this, yeah, goes what, okay, so let me get there.
But it costs $10 per person to make them run the bus.
Yeah, so hold on, so to your first question about 50%, yes, it's achievable. And why I say that is because in 2018, when Mass Transit did their master plan, in their executive summary, they had from 2000, at the peak ridership, which is about maybe 2010 to 2018, Mass Transit had seen a decline in ridership by 1/3, okay? So here, I have 3 fingers up, 1/3. If I take away 1 from the 1/3, right? And I wanna go back to increase to what I had before, that's 50%, right? That's 50%. So I wrote that, I'm gonna be honest, a little bit cheap, but also a very attainable goal, okay? And now, you know, with the Mass Transit Master Plan, and if you ever have time to look through that, it's really focused on making a system that you could hopefully in the future be able to do your first and last mile either by biking or walking, because you will be in a 1-minute distance from a bus stop, and then be able to take your ride. Other investments we've made is with the last 2 administrators, or with this current administration. Administrator is the word I'm looking for. They've done a lot of grant writing. And so currently, and I think until at least the end of 2025, and hopefully we'll be applying for to continue the grant, Mass Transit is free. Mass Transit is also free, and if you ask for a bike share code, you will also have free bike share ride for the day. So if you get on, it's free, and then you ask for your code, and you can do your last mile to whatever destination you have in Kailua on a bike. So we're trying as a county really hard to make this possible. It's still gonna be hard. There's an introduction of e-bikes that hasn't gone live yet because we're still working out the insurance part of that. But that is also gonna make it easier for you to get up some of these hills, like you said. It's gonna be hard, right? It's gonna be hard. The terrain here is hard, but you know, a lot of technological advances in those things can help us push the needle in that, just the way technological advances in car making and vehicle making has pushed us into a car economy. So we're hoping with the policies that we have, we can move toward that future.
Okay, comment on the plan and a different subject?
Yeah.
For that purpose, should I also come forward?
Yes, we know you're not shy. We know you're not shy.
Yeah, okay. And maybe just for the record, I'm Colin Gaola Childs. and I did not sign on a paper. My comment is in the context of the role of the community development plans, the CDPs, as we often call them, the regional plans. And because under our county way of law, the general plan dictates, as I understand it, the general plan dictates what the community development plans shall cover and how they shall approach things. And that's done by the general plan itself, saying so each time that it's adopted or updated. It's not in the code. In that context of the general plan controlling the CDP's scope and purpose, I would like to suggest that this general plan version provide that each community development plan from this time forward, or each update when it goes through its own update process, shall contain a schedule of sequencing of public facilities in particular. Private, you can't schedule what private people are going to do, but you can schedule public facilities in a sequence over time of in each region what should be, and this is where the public can really get engaged. Which park comes first? Which senior center comes first? Which road extensions come first? And then which ones come second? Things of that nature, of that specificity. The reason that's important is that right now we have all these wonderful statements in each CDP, community development plan, and the general plan, everything that should be taken into consideration. And we have a basket full of, quote, priorities, but which ones are actually first with the limited amount of money that we actually have in a county budget, federal grants, however we could get it to do things. Which ones are the most important? The Kona Community Development Plan does have a priority list, but there's about 14 or so that would cost $100 million to build, and we don't get there. An example of a windfall was when former Mayor Billy Kanoy got federal funds from during the recession. Tiger was the abbreviation, I think, to build the Anakil Highway that we have now from Palani Road to Hinalani Street. That was mostly federal money that fell because of that and the mayor's aggressiveness to pull that. You can't put that in the budget 5 years ahead. But you could state the priority for if and when somehow we could do that. And if no can, you could at least go to number 2. I think doing that will help with question of sprawl, for example, and traffic, as Charlie Young pointed out earlier, problems with traffic we have here in Kona. In my view, it's because of sprawl. 50% of it's just from old subdivisions like Ocean View and everything in between. And 50% is that we tend to okay somebody who has a good package proposal in any specific area. We're seeing that currently with a project that's above Laco Street intersection. I think it's called Royal Vistas, whatnot, and the public displeasure with that being added to that traffic. It's perhaps a good idea, but not in the right place or right time. This is where CDPs, Kona, Kua, and even in Kau would help all of us if there was a priority ranking. So in summary, I ask that I know it won't be in a change to the draft, just going on to commissioners' comments for review, that the general plan have language inserted requiring that all CDP updates shall include a sequencing of public facilities that are preferred by the people of that CDP. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ella. Do we have other questions in the audience right now? Okay, do I see any questions online?
Yes, April, I have 4 questions actually.
Okay, great, please.
Okay, so given the last comments, I just wanted to let everybody know that this draft general plan is requiring that all of the CDPs to be revised. So the first question is, what is the impact of this draft general plan on the 6 current community development plans? In other words, what is it going to be forcing them to do, what sort of intentions of those communities may be trumped basically by this draft general plan. Also, what is the impact of the passage today of the accessory dwelling unit bill on the draft general plan, where up to 3 accessory dwelling units will be allowed per lot in the urban and rural land use districts? The third question is, over 400,000 acres of agriculture is being removed in the land use plan map that's being proposed in the draft plan. Where the question is, where are the largest areas of these changes? And the final question is, why has the planning director moved the Hokulea project into rural before the State Land Use Commission has considered Hokulea's petition to the Land Use Commission and before the project has conducted a supplemental environmental impact statement? Thank you.
You're very welcome. So you may have to repeat some of those questions for me because that was a lot.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So
I thought we were gonna get one at a time. So the first one, hit me with your first one, was the CDPs. How does this general plan affect the CDPs?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
perfect. Okay, so the CDPs are adopted by ordinance and they stand as they are, just as the current general plan, which was adopted in 2005, is adopted by ordinance and stands as is. Until or unless this, whatever new general plan is adopted, those absolutely stay in place. Even after the general plan, the new general plan is adopted, the community development plans still stay in place because it does not change the ordinance that adopted those CDPs. So those CDPs stay in place. Then we would hope to start working with communities to revise and update their CDPs. Some communities are already starting that on their own. And that future CDP would reflect or be consistent with their goals and values in their community, but to also be guided by the general plan as adopted when it's adopted. Does that answer your question? So the general plan does not supersede the existing CDPs.
But once it is adopted, if there's a conflict between the newly adopted plan and the CDPs, the way that it works is the general plan prevails, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the second one was the impact of the accessory dwelling unit bill on the draft general plan.
That will be a question for Planning Commission and County Council. I don't know if they're gonna recommend changes based on that bill, but that the general plan was not drafted with that bill in mind. That bill came out separately during this overall process. So I don't know how Planning Commission or the County Council will choose to reflect or not that bill. Either way, that bill is now in code. And so that code is law and is allowed. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers that question. So what was your third question? I started writing and then I stopped.
I'm sorry, it was on according to the scenario. Yeah, the third question was about the 400,000 acres.
One more time.
And the 400,000 acres being removed from on the agriculture.
Yes. So a lot of that agriculture was in the largest areas were in high elevation areas above 2,500 and 3,000 feet and largely forested and are now, if they were not already in state land use conservation, they are now in, we're proposing that they be under natural.
Okay.
Which allows.
Okay, thank you.
Natural allows agricultural.
Yeah, so if there is agricultural activity, it's still also zoned ag in many cases, so it still would allow offer some agricultural activity, but particularly those areas that are in dense forest and have native canopy, they were put into or proposed to be in the natural designation.
Okay. Thank you. And the last one was with regard to hopefully being
Okay.
moved into rural.
One more, your other last question was hopefully, yeah, into rural, yeah. So yeah, appears to be developing, it does still have some agricultural uses and putting it in or proposing that it be in the rural designation does not change that underlying zoning. However, the way it's starting to be used as more of a properties in there and there, it's already divided in, much of it is already divided into relatively small lots. And so that is the definition of the rural designation. And the plan, as we also talked about in the workshops, one of the goals was to try to better utilize rural, the rural designation in a lot of different areas. So a lot of different communities are seeing, in other cases, it's urban to rural, to make some of those distinctions between some uses.
Okay. Is the planning director aware
Thank you,
that?
Chuck.
Okay.
One more time. Okay. Okay, I think the point that you were making when you asked that question, as I recall, is
Why do we make a change before the steps?
before the state land use, because again, it's about the use that it's developing into and perhaps was intended as the development happened. So whether or not Hokulia goes forward with that state land use application, that's largely on them and be it the county or the state to urge them to complete those conditions. I don't know all the details, so if I'm getting something wrong on that, frankly, Chuck, you know more details about that development than I do. But we'll see what happens in the future on that. So, but I really do appreciate the question and I hear where you're coming from.
Okay, I just wanted to make it clear that moving it into rural through the general plan process exempts them from the supplemental environmental impact statement that the Land Use Commission was asking for.
Okay, I'm not aware of that, but thank you. So I think we had some more questions on the floor. Lamaku, did you have another question?
And then we'll get to that.
Oh, sure, of course.
And officially, aloha kapo, aloha. There couldn't be probably a more important meeting to get to than the general plan. As they said, there are just maybe 4 or 5 before this one. So all your comments, I really respect to the meetings. My name is Lamaku Mikahala Roy. I am Ahuena of Kahu of Ahuena Heo. My father, David Ihelimona Roy Jr., restored the first temple in the Hawaiian Islands, in the Pacific, and on Earth. I and Ali'inui Mo'i Edmund Kili'ipaki Silva Jr. are 2 kahu today of Ahuena Heo. In 2010, we began to hear from the ancestors of OEB. I am before you today checking in with the chairs. I'm glad you're meeting here because I made it a point to, with other distinguished members of the CDP here process, I announced this at our community meetings. In 2010, we began to hear from the ancestors of Uibi. It is a miracle of the earth. You know, like the miracle of Fatima, the Lady of Lourdes. This is nothing short of that. We have heard from the ancestors. I now have volumes of what they report. I have also given the information to the counties. In 2021, I wrote to the legislature of Hawaii. And then two people have had all the same letters that are quite definitive of what the ancestors have said. And as a result, they say that the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii is at hand. It is at Kamakohonu, where it is in place today, in this year, in this Friday at the mayoral forum. I would like to report that to you folks here today because nothing is the same since we've heard from the ancestors of Oiwi. They are true, and this is a miracle of the earth. I stand to report it here because for Bill 169, talking about the development that Keola mentioned in Hololoa, where they want to build the royal vistas. The ancestors have said 40 miles of land between Kaloko and Honaunau are now kapu'ia. Now, no further new development is to happen there. They are the first official development that is now hearing my input for the ancestors that they're not to have any new development. And they are ancestors that they are to develop the plan and model for the rest of the 40 miles. All developments that want to come forward to the county, like the Royal Vistas, have to listen to this guidance from heaven. This is real as I'm standing before you. And it will change Hawaii. We are in place as the kingdom of Hawaii at Kamakohonu, where Kamehameha the Great unified the first kingdom. I stand to represent the ancestors, and as one of the two kahu here, the other, again, I say, is Ali'inui Mo'i Edmund Kili Ipaki Silva Jr. And this again was announced last Friday at the mayoral discussion. Interestingly, it was cut out of the film. I'm not on there. Isn't it interesting that nothing is said by the government about this? And so I come tonight especially to remind the CDP that I made these comments. It was after 2018. And that ever since then in peripheral meetings in the community, I've continued to say. And now it's even more important because now we're talking about the entire general plan for Hawaii Island, but my goodness, for the whole, much to discuss, and this will be written out in my testimony. Thank you. By the way, Lamaku means standing torch. It is the name of the people who were chosen by God to represent him. They stand for Akua, and I'm honored to be the first one of the modern era, chosen by God. Lamaku means standing torch. And from the beginning of time in these islands, God says, we are where the earth began. And now the greatest news is that God is healing the planet in the rebirth of this planet, healing the planet and all life on the planet. That's you and me and every creeping, crawling thing. Imagine if we leave it to Akua and work in harmony, we will find the answer. This is what I add into your good efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have other questions? Are there other questions online? Oh, okay, I'm gonna move over to John, yes?
Just a question with regards to comments presented. I saw date 26, that's as far as writing and presenting for just mixing and we're having a file for the next time we start writing.
Yes, so the question is, the comments that are received between now, or actually July 29th, I guess, when this first went public, to September 29th, that is the first phase and opportunity for receiving public comments. Again, just to be repetitive, all of the public comments received will be packaged, and all of that will be presented to the planning commission. Their recommendations and review and recommendations. That package will then also go to the county council. But public comments will also be received during the planning commission phase and the county council phase. Are there other questions online?
April, just one last one, I promise.
Yes, okay. That's
Um,
okay. Hit me with it.
so, I was disturbed again with regard to Hokulea, the settlement the county signed. Hokulea was supposed to move 5 lots on Pu'uhau, which the Hawaii Island Burial Council designated to be a road mausoleum from the base to the top. And Hokulea has 5 lots on the north slope of Hokulea, and it's showing up in the general plan land use map. Those 5 lots are not in conservation. They're part of the development, and I'm hoping that the planning director will work with Hokulea to have those 5 lots moved into conservation, because it's going to cause it'll be a big mess if people try to buy those lots on Pu'uhau, which is the Hawaii Island Burial Council states is a burial site if homes start being built on there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have the parcel numbers for those that you can email me separately after
Yes, they're phase 2 lots 26 through 30.
this? Chuck,
They're phase 2 subdivision lots 26 through 30.
through 30. Okay,
Thank you.
got it. Thank you. Are there other questions online? Okay. Janice, do you have questions? Okay, are there other questions in the
Hold on,
room?
I'm coming, sorry. Can you hear me? I've
Oh,
had
that-
such terrible.
That's okay. Oh, you must have bad service with all this weather and rain. You're not coming in clearly. Hold on 1 second. Okay, maybe it'll catch up with you. Yes, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Turn your camera off. If you can hear me, turn your camera off, but still talk to us. Maybe we can get better reception.
I was headed to the meeting, but I thought you called.
Okay, let's try one more time.
Okay, I just have one question. Oh, I have anything?
It's better.
Can
It's
you hear me?
better. So let's try it.
No.
Yep, let's try it.
Okay, I'm gonna try another locale.
Well, no, try your question.
No.
We're starting to hear you now,
Okay.
so you're just now catching
Okay,
up.
never mind. Thanks. That's okay. Can you hear me? Doubt it. Don't think so.
I think
Okay, I'll try another
so.
spot.
I think so. Let's try.
Oh, you
Let's
can hear
try.
me. Oh, okay. Okay.
Give us your question. Yeah,
Oh,
give us your question.
okay. Can you hear me? No. Sorry, guys.
Yes,
I give in.
yes. I don't think she can hear us.
I think-
We can hear you.
Okay, my question first. Is zoning being changed in the general plan and ag areas, especially changing ag 5 and larger properties to R?
So I didn't catch all of that in the general plan in ag properties, but I didn't catch what's after that, so just start after that. You had,
Okay, did you get that?
one more
Is
time.
zoning being in the general plan and ag areas, specifically changing ag 5 and larger properties to RA and FA?
Okay, so I think what you said is the general plan changing zoning from ag to RA, which is a rural designation, but RA could also, I don't know if you meant residential ag, which is a
Terrible,
zoning district.
Okay,
So I think what your question is what I just stated, is that the general plan does not change, the land use districts in the general plan do not change our county zoning. So for people who have their county zoning right now, for example, if they have the zoning of agriculture 5 acres, and that's under the zoning code, the general plan does not change that. If the general plan suggests a different type of land use designation, it does not mean that people cannot no longer do ag on their ag 5 property. So the general plan does not change zoning. If zoning is to change, that's an entirely different process. The landowner, every single landowner would have to be notified, and there would have to be a party to it. And I don't know if the county has actually ever taken on a county initiated change of zone. I don't know that we've actually done that. I don't think I have enough history with the county to know the answer to that, but I'm not aware of it. So I'm not sure if that fully answers Janice's question. Janice, do you have any better, are you able to hear us better, or do you have better connection, but you don't have to turn on your camera? Okay, I'm not sure if she hears us, but I did my best to answer that question. And I can
thank
talk.
you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave you alone. Yes, I just heard that last little bit. I've been in and out. I think here I should have connection. So, I appreciate that answer. I wanted to make one comment about what Keola said, his comment about listing, priorities on the CDP. And as he said, is the Kona CDP has done that, at least a time or two. And I am of a different opinion about that. I think that we had the Kona Open Space Network on the top of our list. Well, definitely once for a while, top of the CIP list and priorities list. And I think I think that you have to go for big things, because you can't implement a plan if you can't get the basic structure and all of the things that you need to make that plan actually a plan. And so I'm afraid that if we just take little monies and do a little thing here and a little thing there, then people will be, missing I'm afraid we'll just we just still won't have plans that are really integrated. I think that you can only have, get people out of their cars and all the other things you were talking about tonight and all the things that are in the CDP by thinking big and insisting that the funds go to things like the Open Space Network, TODs, concurrency infrastructure being in place. So, yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on that, but thanks, Kila, for the thoughts and for bringing that up. And thanks for being so patient with my.
No worries.
horrible-
Thank you so much. We can always talk offline as well. I'm
Yep.
happy to, you know me, I'm
Yep.
happy to talk.
Yes. Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Janice. All right, do we have any other questions or comments for our guests in person? Okay, and any other questions or comments online? Okay, very good. Well, if that's the case, then we're gonna,
I have a question.
okay. The questions?
Actually, it's a statement that by Congress's law of the freedom of religions of 1978, this is the law that protected the practice of the first faith of the islands of Hawaii. Having into your notes and to the plan as it's being written, the general plan, because I assure you, this is going to bring change. You are not ready for this. This is something absolutely different, and I assure you, it's real. I will show you. And why isn't there a call for the discussion and to inquire about this? Ask your mayor, ask your governor. Why isn't it the case? This is as real as I am standing before you, and it's not going away. The people are knowing about this in growing numbers every day. The kingdom of Hawaii is here. It is restored at Kamakohonu, where Kamehameha restored the first temple. Only thing we know today, the reason he unified the kingdom in 1810 and returned to Kamakohonu in 1812 was because Kamakohonu and Ahuenahea was the very first temple built on the earth for the earliest of mankind. And this could only come by oral history from the ancestors of Oiwi. Oiwi, I am not a native Hawaiian, I am Oiwi. I am a member, I am a member of the family of the bones. I'm not a native Hawaiian, that's not my language. Oiwi is. I am one of the people of the bones of the Pacific. And do you come from the Pacific? And furthermore, if you folks are not of Oiwi of this lifetime, maybe you were before, and maybe that's what brings you back to living here and caring deeply about this place. With God, all things are possible. And with God, all prescriptions for health and healing are on the agenda. That's the new world here. And imagine, it's right where we live. This is the newest important information. It needs to be written after. Please record and please make note of this, because this is the biggest news for this time around for this general plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, I think we'll bring this meeting to a close. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to spend this with us. I'm happy to hang around and talk story for any of you in person who want to talk on the side, but otherwise, we'll bring this meeting to a close and stop the recording. So thank you all online who were able to attend. Thank you for those of you in person, and we will be in Ka'u, we'll be in Pahala on Thursday evening, same time, 5 o'clock, and we'll do something very similar for that community. So thank you all very much.
Charles, remember when all the meetings started with prayer and closed with prayer? That wasn't so long ago when general plans were talked about. It's amazing what changes in the